The viral formula begins with creating an overwhelming imbalance of power. The audience must immediately believe humanity is weak, outclassed, politically trapped, and technologically inferior. This creates the emotional foundation necessary for the later reversal to feel explosive. The opening of the story works because the galaxy already feels old before humans even appear. Ancient civilizations, giant political councils, fleets large enough to erase planets, and leaders who have spent centuries controlling smaller races instantly create scale. The audience subconsciously understands, humans should not survive this. That feeling is critical. The council chamber itself becomes part of the intimidation strategy. Massive architecture, historical relics, dead moon stone floors, generation ship hull walls. All of these environmental details psychologically crush the viewer before dialogue even begins. The setting tells the audience, this system has defeated civilizations before. That is the first major viral trigger, ancient unstoppable authority. Then humanity enters the narrative in the weakest possible way. Not heroic, not powerful, not feared, just small. This is essential to HFY storytelling. Humans must begin underestimated. The audience needs to feel the disrespect directed at humanity because emotional satisfaction later comes from reversing that disrespect. The script carefully lists human weaknesses. Only 400 ships, weak technology, messy mining stations, soft-bodied species, dependent on suits, inexperienced civilization, Tier 4 species. Every detail reinforces inferiority. But the genius part of the formula is this. The story also quietly plants tiny warning signs beneath the weakness. For example, humans expanded steadily for years. Humans pushed borders calmly. Humans acted cheerfully instead of fearfully. Humans kept moving without asking permission. This creates hidden tension. The audience starts subconsciously asking, if humans are truly weak, why are they acting like this? That question becomes the retention engine for the next several phases. Another major viral technique here is the use of bureaucratic intimidation. Instead of immediate combat, the threat arrives through formal declarations, diplomatic language, legal authority, fleet positioning, procedural dominance. This makes the council feel even more terrifying because they do not need emotional rage to destroy civilizations. They have normalized domination that creates realism. The council isn't evil in a cartoonish way. It's institutional, routine, professional. That is far scarier. The audience also begins emotionally connecting with humanity because humans are placed into a familiar historical position. The smaller nation facing imperial pressure. This activates deep emotional instincts, underdog sympathy, anti-bullying psychology, resistance fantasy, survival instinct. These emotional triggers are extremely important for virality. Now comes one of the smartest parts of the formula, the fleet. The story spends time emphasizing the scale of the 300-ship fleet because numbers psychologically matter to audiences. Huge fleets create cinematic scale, hopelessness, anticipation, spectacle. The audience must fully accept the mathematical dominance before the mathematics later collapse. That is why the script repeatedly reinforces 300 ships versus one civilization. The mathematics theme is introduced early because it becomes the story's central psychological weapon later. Then comes another important retention mechanism. Humanity responds politely, not aggressively, not emotionally, not defensively, politely. This creates cognitive dissonance. The audience expects fear. Instead they get gift baskets, formal apologies, diplomatic professionalism. That contradiction is powerful because contradictions generate curiosity, and curiosity drives watch time. The script also carefully avoids revealing human capability too early. This restraint is one of the most important parts of the viral formula. Weak writers rush to show secret superweapons, giant hidden fleets, instant power reveals. Strong HFY writing delays gratification. This story delays the reveal for a very long time. Instead of showing power directly, it shows behavior. Humans are calm. Humans are steady. Humans are patient. The audience eventually learns. Calmness is the reveal. Another viral storytelling tactic in this phase is the experienced observer. High Counselor Drevin matters because he is intelligent and experienced. The audience trusts his judgment. So when he slowly becomes uncomfortable later, viewers emotionally follow his fear. This is critical. If foolish characters fear humans, the audience feels nothing. If highly competent leaders become uncertain, the audience feels danger. That is why Drevin's experience is repeatedly emphasized. 14 successful declarations. Centuries of council dominance. Understanding smaller civilizations. Confidence in political enforcement. The story first establishes him as correct. Only then can it break his certainty. This creates emotional collapse later. Another important viral element. Slow pressure. The story does not rush conflict. Instead, the fleet waits. Waiting creates tension. Time pressure without immediate action forces viewers to stay emotionally engaged. Audiences constantly anticipate, when will the explosion happen? But the script delays that explosion while increasing discomfort. That structure massively boosts retention. Then the story introduces one of the most effective HFY techniques, the underestimated frontier species. Humanity resembles historical civilizations that looked primitive, appeared disorganized, lacked polish, seemed culturally soft, but secretly possessed adaptability, asymmetrical thinking, strategic creativity, psychological endurance. Audiences love this archetype because it mirrors real historical power reversals. Now comes another extremely important detail. The humans request a meeting instead of surrendering. This is subtle but powerful. The council expects submission. Humans request conversation. That tiny shift immediately changes the emotional atmosphere. The audience begins sensing humans are not reacting correctly. That feeling becomes addictive. Then comes the arrival of one ship. This is the turning point of the phase. The formula here is brilliant. The smaller side voluntarily chooses numerical inferiority. This instantly creates mystery. Why? Because confident species usually compensate weakness with numbers. Humans do the opposite, and that instantly tells the audience, the real weapon is not visible yet. This moment creates one of the strongest retention hooks in the story. What does the one ship mean? The naming of the ship is another viral tactic. Reckoning. Strong HFY stories use symbolic naming carefully. A good ship name acts like foreshadowing. It creates subconscious emotional preparation. The audience hears reckoning and instinctively expects judgment, consequences, payback. This is psychologically powerful because the story never explains the threat directly. The audience imagines it themselves. Imagination is stronger than exposition. Another elite storytelling decision. The humans send a military officer instead of a diplomat. Again, not explained immediately, just noticed. That's important. The script constantly introduces details without immediate payoff. Military uniform, hidden weapon ports, comm crew, internal volume inconsistencies, unexplained confidence. This creates layered suspense. Every scene quietly asks, what are we missing? That question is the true viral engine of the entire story. Finally, Phase 1 ends with the most important emotional transition. The council still believes it controls the situation, but the audience no longer does. That gap between character certainty and viewer suspicion creates massive narrative tension. And tension is what keeps viewers watching for an hour-long HFY story. The second phase of the viral formula is where the story transforms from big empire threatens weak species into something feels wrong. This phase is entirely about psychological tension. No battles, no explosions, no massive reveals, just discomfort. And that discomfort is what creates addictive retention. The most important principle in this phase is humans do not behave the way weaker civilizations are supposed to behave. That single idea powers the entire middle section of the story. The council arrives expecting fear. Instead, they encounter calm professionalism. That contrast becomes terrifying. The audience already understands the power imbalance. 300 warships versus one small civilization. So when humanity reacts casually, viewers immediately sense hidden danger. This is one of the strongest HFY retention formulas. The audience discovers the threat before the characters do. That creates emotional superiority. Viewers start watching the council walk into a trap they themselves cannot yet see. And that is incredibly satisfying. The story carefully escalates this unease through small behavioral details rather than action scenes. For example, the humans request a meeting. They send one ship. The crew follows protocols perfectly. Nobody appears nervous. Everyone acts polite. Nobody acts impressed by the fleet. Each detail slowly increases suspicion. The key here is, nothing individually looks threatening. But together, they feel deeply unnatural. That's elite suspense writing. Another major viral technique in this phase is controlled environmental storytelling. When Drevin boards the human ship, the atmosphere instantly changes. The ship feels warmer, softer, more human, more alive. This contrast matters psychologically. The council ships feel cold and institutional. The human ship feels comfortable and personal. That difference subconsciously communicates. Humans are emotionally grounded while the council is emotionally sterile. Viewers naturally gravitate toward the human side because warmth creates emotional connection. Then the story introduces another critical HFY element: human normalcy under pressure. The crew members smile, nod politely, continue working, behave casually. No fear, no tension, no panic. This completely destroys the council's expectations. The audience begins asking, how can they possibly be this calm? That question is the retention hook of Phase 2. Another brilliant storytelling move: the humans serve coffee. This seems small, but psychologically it's genius. Why? Because refreshments imply comfort, hospitality, routine. You do not serve coffee when you believe you are about to die. So the coffee scene quietly tells the audience, the humans believe they are safe. And that realization is unsettling. The story repeatedly uses ordinary human behavior as intimidation. That's extremely effective because normality under extreme pressure feels unnatural. The audience instinctively understands. These people know something the council does not. Then comes one of the most important viral mechanics: micro-mysteries. The script constantly drops unexplained clues: hidden weapon ports, strange ship design, military admiral acting as diplomat, unexplained confidence, scarred hull plating on wall, references to creative application, strange ship name, calm tactical officer, hidden interior space. Every clue increases curiosity, but the story refuses to answer immediately. That refusal creates binge retention. Weak stories explain too quickly. Strong stories stack mysteries. This script stacks them masterfully. Another huge strength: the humans never brag. This is very important. HFY becomes childish when humans constantly say, "We are stronger than you. You don't know who you're messing with. We are unstoppable." This story avoids that. Instead, humans remain patient, respectful, conversational. That makes them feel intelligent rather than arrogant. And intelligence is far more intimidating than loudness. The best example is Admiral Yara Voss. She becomes terrifying because she never tries to appear terrifying. Her emotional control dominates every scene. She speaks calmly, carefully, politely, and that creates a psychological imbalance. Drevin begins emotionally reacting while Voss remains stable. That reversal matters. The council came to establish dominance. Instead, humans slowly control the emotional rhythm of the conversation. That is subtle power. Another major viral technique: the audience learns through observation instead of exposition. For example, the hidden corridor dimensions. Nobody announces, "This ship contains hidden systems." Instead, a security officer notices inconsistencies. That makes the world feel real. Real intelligence work creates stronger immersion than dramatic reveals. And immersion increases retention dramatically for long-form sci-fi. Then the story introduces another critical concept: invisible preparation. The humans are not improvising. Everything about the ship feels intentional. The crew behavior, the room layout, the mounted hull plating, the warmth, the diplomacy, the calmness. Everything feels prepared beforehand. The audience slowly realizes this meeting may have been anticipated years ago. That realization creates strategic dread. Strategic dread is one of the strongest emotional tools in HFY storytelling because viewers love prepared underdogs. Now comes another key viral element: Dreven's instincts. The story repeatedly references old instincts, survival instincts, caution developed over centuries. This is brilliant because it emotionally validates the audience's suspicions. Dreven's subconscious notices danger before his conscious mind accepts it. That mirrors the audience experience. Viewers also feel something is wrong. So when Dreven starts feeling it too, the emotional connection strengthens. Another important formula element: delayed threat confirmation. At this stage, humans still have not revealed power. That restraint matters enormously. The story only gives implications. For example, we handled it. Mining equipment. One ship was enough. These lines work because they imply enormous hidden capability without directly stating it. Implication is stronger than exposition, especially for YouTube retention, because viewers stay to confirm their theories. Then comes another elite psychological move. The council begins reacting emotionally while humans remain calm. This completely reverses the original power dynamic. At the beginning, council equals composed. Humans equals expected victims. Now, humans equals composed. Council equals uncertain. That reversal creates emotional satisfaction before any actual victory occurs. And emotional victories are often more satisfying than physical victories. The story also weaponizes professionalism. Every human action is procedural, organized, measured. This matters because professionalism signals competence. Competence creates fear. Audiences instinctively trust calm, competent characters, especially when surrounded by panic. Then the power signature mystery appears. This is where Phase 2 transitions toward technological suspense. The regular power spikes are genius storytelling because they are repetitive. Repetition creates dread. The audience begins associating the charge cycle with an approaching unknown event. And the fact that nobody explains it makes it worse. Another elite storytelling tactic: the humans are always one step ahead emotionally. Whenever Dreven pushes, Voss already expected it. Whenever he pressures, she stays relaxed. This creates invisible dominance. The audience starts realizing the council is reacting. Humans are directing. That is a huge psychological shift. The phrase, "one ship was enough," becomes the central emotional trigger of the phase, because it redefines the entire situation. The council interprets numbers conventionally. More ships equals more power. Humans interpret strategy asymmetrically. The correct tool matters more than numbers. That philosophy becomes the heart of the story. Another important viral factor: escalation without payoff. The story increases tension repeatedly without releasing it. This is crucial for long YouTube retention. Each scene raises concern but avoids resolution. That keeps viewers emotionally trapped in anticipation. Then the phase ends with the strongest possible emotional transition. Curiosity becomes fear. At first Dreven is confused. Now he is unsettled. And the audience follows him emotionally into that fear. The genius part: humans still haven't shown their weapon. Yet the council already feels weaker. That is elite HFY storytelling. Humans are suspicious into humans may already control the battlefield. This phase is crucial because it transforms curiosity into strategic fear. The audience no longer wonders, are humans dangerous? Now they wonder, how dangerous are they? That shift is one of the strongest retention transitions in long-form HFY storytelling. The most important mechanic in this phase is invisible escalation. The story avoids obvious military flexing. No giant superlaser. No massive hidden fleet. No dramatic speech. Instead, small anomalies begin appearing. This is brilliant because invisible threats create stronger psychological tension than visible weapons. Visible weapons can be measured. Invisible systems create imagination. And imagination is always scarier. The first major escalation comes through the power spikes. The repeated charging cycles become emotionally important because they are rhythmic. Every 40 minutes, another spike. This creates subconscious countdown tension. Even before the audience knows what the system does, the cycle itself becomes threatening. Why? Because repetition signals purpose. Humans are preparing something methodically. That's terrifying. Another important viral technique. The story turns engineering into suspense. Instead of combat scenes, viewers watch, scan data, interior measurements, energy readings, spatial inconsistencies. That sounds boring on paper, but the script frames these discoveries like horror clues. That's the genius. The audience feels the same emotional rhythm as a horror movie. Something is hidden. Nobody fully understands it. Every clue makes the unknown bigger. This structure massively boosts retention because viewers stay waiting for the reveal. Another elite storytelling move. The humans never interrupt the council's assumptions. This is critical. Voss never says, "You misunderstand us." She simply allows the council to continue making bad assumptions. That creates strategic superiority. The audience slowly realizes the humans are not winning through force alone. They are winning through perception management. This is sophisticated HFY writing. Another major viral element. The hidden interior volume. This moment is extremely effective because it introduces physical impossibility. The ship should not internally fit its external dimensions. That detail matters psychologically because it signals advanced engineering hidden beneath simplicity. The audience instantly reevaluates everything. The ship no longer feels like a diplomatic vessel. Now it feels like a disguised system. And disguised systems are frightening because their purpose is unknown. The script also carefully escalates Dreven's instincts. At first, he notices odd behavior. Now he actively investigates. That transition is important. The audience emotionally follows Dreven's growing concern. This creates immersion because viewers experience discovery alongside him. Another strong retention tactic. Partial answers. The story starts answering mysteries, but only partially. For example, yes, the ship is charging something. No, they don't know what. Yes, space is affected. No, they can't scan it. Yes, the ship is larger internally. No, they don't know why. This is essential for binge retention. Every answer creates a bigger question. That's elite suspense structure. Another critical viral formula element. Humans remain emotionally stable while the council loses stability. The emotional reversal keeps increasing. At the beginning, the council controlled emotional pressure. Now, they are becoming reactive. Meanwhile, humans remain patient, calm, conversational. That emotional imbalance creates dominance without combat. And viewers love competence dominance, especially in HFY. Then comes another major storytelling weapon, the old instinct. The script repeatedly references ancient survival instincts warning Dreven. This works because logic alone cannot explain what he feels. His subconscious recognizes danger before evidence confirms it. That makes the fear feel primal. Primal fear is emotionally contagious. The audience starts feeling, if someone this experienced is unsettled, the situation must be catastrophic. Another elite technique. The council slowly loses informational superiority. At first, they know everything. Now, they understand less and less. Meanwhile, humans clearly understand the council perfectly. This reversal is psychologically devastating. Information asymmetry becomes the real battlefield. And this is incredibly effective in military sci-fi because knowledge equals power. The audience realizes the council arrived prepared for war. Humans prepared for the council. That difference changes everything. Then the story introduces another powerful viral mechanism: controlled foreshadowing. The ship name, Reckoning. The hull plating trophy. The mining equipment story. The military admiral. The hidden compartments. The power cycles. All earlier clues now begin connecting. This creates viewer satisfaction because audiences love realizing the story was warning us the whole time. That feeling dramatically increases engagement and comments because viewers enjoy discussing hidden clues. Another major strength: the humans remain polite even while escalating. This is extremely important psychologically. Aggressive characters feel emotional. Calm characters feel dangerous. Voss keeps speaking, professionally, respectfully, almost kindly, even while implying the council may already be trapped. That contrast creates emotional discomfort. The audience cannot predict emotional explosions because humans refuse emotional escalation. And unpredictability creates retention. Then comes one of the strongest HFY concepts: asymmetrical thinking. The council evaluates numbers. Humans evaluate systems. This philosophical difference becomes the foundation of the conflict. The council thinks 300 ships wins. Humans think, what assumptions make those ships vulnerable? That mindset difference is what makes humanity feel uniquely dangerous. And HFY audiences absolutely love this theme. Another critical storytelling tactic: the audience sees the trap before the characters fully do. This creates suspense superiority. Viewers begin understanding the human ship was never here to negotiate. It was here to establish conditions. That realization changes the emotional tone completely. The humans are not responding to the council's pressure. They are managing it. That's a huge psychological reversal. Then the invisible object appears. This is one of the most effective escalation moments in the entire script because nothing visibly happens. The ship turns. Power surges. Space bends. No explosion. No attack. That restraint is genius. Weak stories would immediately show destruction. Strong stories delay consequences. The audience becomes terrified because they do not understand the rules anymore. And when audiences lose understanding of battlefield rules, tension skyrockets. Another elite retention mechanic: scientific confusion. The censor officers cannot classify the phenomenon. This is powerful because advanced civilizations are supposed to understand technology. When experts cannot explain something, the threat instantly feels larger. The audience realizes humans may possess doctrines outside galactic expectations. That's peak HFY. Then comes the most important transition of the phase: the mathematics collapse. Earlier, 300 ships versus one ship. Now, numbers may not matter. That realization is devastating because the entire council strategy depended on overwhelming scale. Humans attack the strategy itself. This is what makes the story feel intelligent instead of simply powerful. The audience realizes humans prepared specifically for this kind of enemy. That specificity creates strategic horror. Another major viral element: the ticking clock. 42 minutes. This is brilliant pacing design. Why? Because mystery alone eventually weakens. Mystery plus time pressure creates addiction. Now the audience is emotionally trapped. Something terrible may happen. Nobody fully understands it. Time is running out. That combination is elite retention engineering. The story also carefully avoids immediate payoff again. Even after the invisible deployment, the audience still doesn't know exactly what the system does. That restraint is extremely difficult to write correctly. But it massively increases engagement because viewers continue watching to understand, what did humanity actually deploy? Then the phase ends with one of the strongest emotional reversals in the story. The council fleet is still larger, still stronger conventionally, still armed. But psychologically, they are already losing. And the audience knows it before they fully do. That is exactly what makes this phase so powerful for long-form YouTube storytelling. Mysterious human confidence into humanity fights war differently than everyone else. This phase is the philosophical core of the story. Not the weapons, not the ships, not even the seeds. The philosophy. That is what makes this script feel intelligent instead of generic. The most important viral mechanism here is humans redefine the battlefield itself. The Council believes warfare is ship versus ship, firepower versus firepower, numbers versus numbers. Humans reject that entire framework. And the moment the audience understands this, the power hierarchy collapses. This is elite HFY storytelling because humans do not win through bigger weapons. They win through different thinking. That distinction matters enormously. Most weak HFY stories rely on humans secretly strongest. This story instead says, humans think in ways the galaxy never considered. That feels far more sophisticated. The reveal of the seeds is one of the strongest strategic payoffs in the script because it attacks something invisible, formation space. The Council spent centuries optimizing ship armor, shields, weapons, fleet coordination. Humans optimized the gaps. That is genius asymmetrical warfare writing. The audience instantly understands the humans were never trying to overpower the fleet. They were bypassing the entire concept of fleet superiority. This creates massive viewer satisfaction because all earlier clues suddenly make sense. That payoff structure is critical for virality. Every earlier mystery now connects. One ship, hidden volume, charge cycles, comm crew, no visible weapons, internal compartments, strategic patience. The audience experiences retroactive understanding. That feeling is addictive. Another powerful storytelling element. The seeds are terrifying because they are modular. This is extremely smart writing. The seeds do not have one function. They have multiple possible outcomes. That uncertainty multiplies tension. The audience realizes the humans have flexible control over escalation. That is far more dangerous than a single giant weapon, because adaptable systems imply strategic maturity. Another elite HFY technique. Humans explicitly state they do not want war. This is critical. Voss repeatedly says, she wants the Council to reconsider. She does not want people to die. The seeds are defensive. The terminal signal is avoidable. This matters psychologically because restraint creates legitimacy. Audiences emotionally support humans more strongly when they possess overwhelming power but avoid using it recklessly. That balance is extremely important. Otherwise, humanity becomes villainous instead of admirable. The script carefully walks this line perfectly. Another major viral element. The Council finally realizes they misunderstood humanity completely. This is one of the most satisfying emotional moments in HFY storytelling. The realization scene. The audience has been ahead emotionally for a long time. Now the Council finally catches up. And that delayed realization creates payoff. The story also brilliantly reframes human history. Earlier, humanity looked soft, young, small, inexperienced. Now, their violent history becomes an advantage. This is one of the most powerful HFY formulas. Human flaws become strategic strengths. War, adaptation, chaos, irrationality, conflict, survival pressure. All the things the galaxy views negatively become the exact reason humans are dangerous. That inversion is incredibly satisfying for audiences, especially because it feels believable. Another elite storytelling decision. Humans openly admit they studied the Council for years. This changes the emotional dynamic completely. The audience realizes this was never spontaneous. The humans anticipated the fleet formation, the political strategy, the intimidation doctrine, the enforcement patterns, the escalation process. This creates strategic horror because the Council unknowingly walked into a scenario designed specifically for them. And viewers love prepared underdogs, especially when preparation defeats arrogance. Another critical viral factor. the Council's own success becomes its weakness. This is brilliant thematic writing. The Council won 14 previous confrontations so consistently that they stopped adapting. That is realistic. Powerful systems often become predictable because success reduces paranoia. Humans exploit that predictability. That's why the story feels intelligent. The Council did not lose because it was stupid. It lost because it became too certain. That nuance matters enormously. Another massive strength. The humans attack psychology before violence. This is one of the best parts of the script. The seeds alone are terrifying. But the true weapon is uncertainty. The Council now faces invisible systems, unknown capabilities, unclear escalation limits, uncertain objectives, hidden secondary weapons. Fear grows because nobody knows where the ceiling is, and unknown ceilings create panic. The audience experiences the same fear as the Council. What else did humans prepare? That question becomes the new retention engine. Then comes one of the strongest lines in the story. We thought about it for 4 years. This line is devastating psychologically. Why? Because it reveals humanity has been mentally fighting this war long before it began. That changes everything. The Council arrived believing. They initiated the confrontation. The audience now understands. Humans have been preparing for this exact moment for years. That reversal creates enormous emotional payoff. Another elite technique. The humans remain emotionally composed even after revealing power. This is extremely important. Weak stories often shift into boasting, threats, arrogance, revenge speeches. This script avoids that completely. Va stays calm, factual, restrained, which makes her feel even more dangerous. Because emotionally stable people with overwhelming leverage are terrifying. Another major viral element. The terminal signal. This concept is brilliantly designed because it weaponizes inevitability. Destroying the ship does not solve the problem. That's genius. The Council's traditional military thinking fails completely because every normal solution worsens the situation. This creates strategic paralysis. Strategic paralysis is one of the strongest forms of tension in military sci-fi. Why? Because audiences realize the stronger force no longer controls escalation, and loss of escalation control feels catastrophic. Another powerful HFY mechanic. Humans reveal irrationality as strategic doctrine. This is incredibly smart writing. Voss explains, the galaxy assumes rational responses. Humans are not always rational. That line matters because it redefines deterrence theory. The Council system depends on predictable fear. Humans break predictability. That makes them impossible to intimidate conventionally. And that philosophical shift is what truly defeats the Council. Not technology alone. Mindset. Another important viral factor. The story rewards attentive viewers. Everything now connects. The comm crew, the military diplomat, the hidden volume, the charge cycles, the old instincts, the coffee, the confidence. The audience feels smart for noticing clues. This dramatically increases comments, rewatches, and engagement. Then comes another terrifying realization. The reckoning was built specifically for the Council fleet. Not for fleets generally. This fleet, that specificity changes the emotional scale completely. The humans are not reacting to galactic politics. They engineered countermeasures against the Council itself. That is strategic obsession. And obsession creates fear. Finally, the phase ends with the strongest possible emotional transition. The Council no longer fears a ship. They fear human thinking. And once the audience realizes that, the story evolves from military sci-fi into existential strategic horror. That is what makes the script truly memorable. Humans can defeat the fleet into humans may be capable of reshaping galactic power itself. This phase is about escalation beyond immediate combat. The story no longer focuses on winning a battle. Now it focuses on destroying the Council's entire psychological system. That shift is what makes the narrative feel massive. The biggest viral mechanism here is the second hidden system. The seeds alone already neutralized the fleet. But then the audience discovers the seeds were only the defensive layer. This is brilliant escalation design. Why? Because it destroys certainty again. Every time the audience thinks, okay, now we understand the threat, the story reveals there is another layer. That layered escalation creates binge-level retention. The humans are always one step ahead of audience expectations. That's elite pacing. Another critical storytelling weapon, the second charge cycle. Earlier, the audience feared the recharge timer because something unknown was coming. Now the script reveals the seeds were only the first deployment. This instantly reframes the entire situation. The audience realizes the council already survived the warning shot. That realization is terrifying. Another powerful viral technique, humanity planned for the council sacrificing the fleet. This is one of the smartest strategic turns in the story. The council's final emotional fallback was, if necessary, we absorb the losses and preserve authority. Humans predicted that too. That moment psychologically destroys the council, because now, every layer of their doctrine has been anticipated. This is incredibly satisfying for HFY audiences because humans are not merely strong, they are strategically comprehensive. Another elite storytelling mechanism. The second system attacks consequences, not ships. This is a huge escalation. The seeds target fleet viability. The anchors threaten space-time itself. That shift expands the conflict from tactical scale to civilizational scale. The audience begins realizing humanity's real weapon is systems warfare, not direct destruction. That makes the story feel intellectually larger. Another important viral element, permanent consequences. The anchors create permanent folds in space-time. This matters psychologically because permanence creates existential fear. Temporary weapons can be survived. Permanent environmental change feels catastrophic. The audience suddenly understands humans built tools that alter strategic geography itself. That is terrifying at a galactic level. Another brilliant HFY formula element, humanity weaponized preparation time. The council assumed humanity was young, but humanity spent that young phase studying, planning, designing counters, mapping doctrine. This is incredibly satisfying because the humans used their perceived weakness as camouflage. That reversal is one of the strongest emotional payoffs in HFY storytelling. Another major retention mechanic. The council begins running out of options instead of ships. This is important. Most military stories escalate through casualties. This story escalates through decision collapse. Every available choice becomes worse than the previous one. That creates sophisticated tension. The audience watches experienced leaders slowly realize there may no longer be a winning move. That emotional suffocation is extremely powerful. Another elite storytelling choice. The humans never become emotionally triumphant. This is critical. Voss does not celebrate. She does not humiliate the council. She does not enjoy the fear. Instead, she behaves like someone executing necessary doctrine. That emotional restraint makes humanity feel mature instead of revenge-driven. And maturity makes power feel more legitimate. Another huge viral factor. The audience realizes humans prepared morally as well as strategically. This is subtle but important. The seeds contain non-lethal modes, disruption modes, targeting modes, terminal modes. That design philosophy communicates. Humanity anticipated escalation control carefully. This makes humans feel dangerous but responsible. That balance is essential for audience admiration. Another powerful storytelling mechanism. The council finally understands the real battlefield. Not ships, not fleets, not weapons, assumptions. The council assumed rational surrender. Intimidation works universally. Numerical superiority guarantees obedience. Technological advantage guarantees control. Humans attacked every assumption simultaneously. This is why the story feels smarter than generic military sci-fi. The real war is epistemological. Humans defeat certainty itself. Another elite HFY technique. Human history becomes tactical doctrine. The script reframes humanity's violent past as training. This is incredibly effective emotionally because human suffering becomes strategic evolution. The audience feels everything humanity survived created this moment. That gives emotional weight to the reveal. Another important viral mechanism. The council slowly becomes emotionally humanized. At first the council felt cold, ancient, invincible. Now, they feel vulnerable. The audience begins empathizing even with Dreven because he is trying to prevent catastrophe. That nuance increases story quality dramatically. Complex enemies create stronger narratives than evil caricatures. Another huge strength. The invisible threat remains partially unknown. Even after multiple reveals, the audience still does not know the full capabilities of the anchors. This is brilliant. The story never fully empties the mystery box, because mystery sustains engagement, especially in long-form YouTube storytelling. Another critical viral factor. The humans prepared specifically for the psychology of empire. This is genius. The council's true weakness was not military. It was institutional ego. Humanity understood. The council could not afford retreat. So humans designed a scenario where enforcement itself became suicidal. That is strategic entrapment. And audiences love strategic entrapment stories, especially when arrogant powers walk into them willingly. Another elite storytelling decision. Time pressure keeps tightening. The countdown continues. This is essential because, without time pressure, philosophical dialogue slows momentum. The ticking clock forces urgency into every conversation. That balance between intellectual suspense and countdown pressure is what keeps retention high. Another major emotional payoff. The council finally stops seeing humans as Tier 4. This is huge psychologically. The label collapses. Humanity can no longer be categorized within the council's existing framework. That creates existential instability, because institutions fear things they cannot classify. Another brilliant storytelling weapon. Humans never claim superiority openly. They simply demonstrate preparedness. This restraint matters enormously. Audiences respect competence more than arrogance. And Voss embodies quiet competence. That archetype performs extremely well in viral HFY content. Another important viral element. The audience begins imagining future implications. This is key. The story expands beyond the immediate confrontation. Viewers start wondering, what other systems did humans build? How many Reckoning-class ships exist? What happens if Earth goes to war? What else did humans prepare for? How long have they been planning? Those questions extend emotional engagement beyond the current scene. That's exactly what long-form sci-fi needs. Then comes one of the strongest thematic realizations in the story. The council thought humanity was entering galactic civilization. In reality, humanity had been studying galactic civilization as a potential threat from the very beginning. That reversal changes the emotional meaning of first contact itself. And it is incredibly satisfying. Finally, Phase 5 ends with the most important emotional transition yet. The council no longer fears defeat. They fear irrelevance. Because humanity has introduced a way of thinking about war the galaxy may not be prepared to survive. And once that realization lands, the entire balance of power in the universe begins to feel unstable. A dangerous civilization into a civilization the galaxy may never fully understand. This phase is critical because the story stops functioning like normal military sci-fi. Now it becomes myth-building. The audience no longer watches humans as ordinary protagonists. They begin viewing humanity through alien eyes. That perspective shift is one of the strongest HFY storytelling techniques ever created. The core emotional mechanism of this phase is unknowability. The council finally understands enough to fear humans, but not enough to predict them. That gap creates mythic tension. The audience starts feeling, if this is only one ship, what does the rest of humanity look like? That question becomes the new retention engine. Another major viral technique. Humanity becomes larger psychologically than physically. This is very important. The story repeatedly reminds viewers, humans still only have one major planet. Their fleet is still smaller. They are still technically weaker conventionally. But emotionally, they now dominate every room. That contrast creates massive narrative power. Because the audience realizes, humanity's greatest weapon is not scale. It is unpredictability. Another elite storytelling move. The council starts reinterpreting earlier memories. This is brilliant because retroactive fear is stronger than immediate fear. Dreven begins mentally replaying the coffee, the smiles, the comm crew, the gift basket, the mining equipment story, the warm corridors, the polite tone. Everything changes meaning. This creates one of the strongest emotional satisfactions in storytelling. Realizing the truth was present from the beginning. Viewers love that feeling. It increases rewatches, comments, retention, emotional investment. Another powerful viral factor, humans weaponize patience. This is one of the most intelligent themes in the script. The galaxy expects rapid intimidation, clear escalation, visible force. Humans instead use preparation, waiting, observation, layered contingency planning. That strategic patience makes humanity feel ancient emotionally, even though they are politically young. This inversion is extremely effective. Another critical storytelling mechanism. The humans never fully explain their technology. This is essential. Weak sci-fi over-explains everything. Strong sci-fi protects mystery. The audience learns what the systems accomplish but not fully how. That restraint keeps the technology feeling dangerous. Because once viewers fully understand a weapon, fear decreases. Mystery preserves scale. Another elite HFY formula. Humanity understands psychology better than the galaxy does. This becomes increasingly clear in this phase. Humans correctly predicted the Council's pride, their escalation ladder, their refusal to retreat, their dependence on precedent, their fleet formations, their political behavior. This makes humanity feel strategically terrifying. The audience realizes humans studied not only technology but civilization behavior itself. That is next-level warfare. Another major viral element. The Council begins emotionally fragmenting. Earlier, the fleet operated with total certainty. Now, different officers advocate different responses. This matters because division signals collapsing authority. The audience sees humanity has already destabilized the enemy psychologically before firing a single conventional shot. That's elite strategic storytelling. Another powerful retention mechanic. The humans continue offering exits. This is very important emotionally. Voss repeatedly provides opportunities for de-escalation. That creates moral contrast. The Council arrived with coercion. Humans respond with controlled deterrence. This makes humanity feel ethically stronger despite possessing terrifying capabilities. Audiences strongly connect with this archetype, restrained power. Another brilliant storytelling technique. The threat keeps expanding conceptually. At first, the threat was the ship, then the seeds, then the anchors. Now, the audience begins realizing the real threat is human doctrine itself. This is crucial. The technology matters less than the mindset that created it. And that mindset feels infinitely scalable. That realization creates existential fear. Another elite HFY mechanic. Humans convert weakness into camouflage. This is one of the most satisfying themes in the entire script. Everything the Council dismissed, small fleets, awkward stations, soft bodies, diplomatic friendliness, cheerful behavior, became strategic cover. The Council saw weakness. Humans saw invisibility. That reversal is emotionally explosive for viewers. Another strong viral element. The audience starts imagining hidden human history. This phase subtly suggests there may be many other projects, many other doctrines, many other prepared contingencies. the viewers begin mentally expanding the universe themselves. And when audiences mentally continue the story beyond the page, engagement skyrockets. Another important storytelling factor: the humans do not seek conquest. This is extremely important. If humanity suddenly wanted domination, the emotional alignment would weaken. Instead, humans want sovereignty, deterrence, strategic respect. That makes their actions feel defensive rather than imperial, which keeps the audience emotionally aligned with them. Another elite retention tactic: the Council's original assumptions become humiliating in retrospect. The gift basket, the Tier 4 classification, the mining stations, the small fleet count, all of it now feels naive. This creates emotional payoff because audiences enjoy watching arrogance collapse under hidden complexity, especially in HFY narratives. Another huge strength: the story avoids immediate climax. This is brilliant pacing. A weaker story would already trigger battle, destruction, fleet collapse. Instead, the story sustains pressure. That restraint keeps emotional tension incredibly high, because anticipation is often more powerful than payoff. Another critical viral mechanism: the humans appear comfortable with catastrophic escalation. This terrifies the Council, not because humans want catastrophe, but because they prepared for it calmly. That distinction matters enormously. Preparedness without panic feels unstoppable. The audience realizes humanity already emotionally processed this war years ago. The Council is emotionally processing it now. That timing difference creates dominance. Another elite storytelling move: the galaxy's worldview begins collapsing. The Council civilization was built around assumptions. Power controls expansion. Fear ensures compliance. Larger fleets dominate smaller ones. Younger civilizations adapt to old ones. Humans invalidate all of it. That makes the confrontation feel civilization-changing rather than tactical. Another powerful HFY element: humanity's violent history becomes evolutionary pressure. The story reframes human conflict as a brutal selection process. Humanity survived because it adapted constantly. This makes humans feel terrifyingly optimized for asymmetric survival. Not noble, not pure, not perfect, adapted. That realism makes the story stronger. Another massive viral factor: Dreven's fear becomes intellectual. This is important. He is not merely afraid of dying. He fears misunderstanding humanity, failing politically, destabilizing the Council, triggering irreversible change. Those layered fears create sophisticated emotional stakes. Another brilliant storytelling mechanism: humanity feels emotionally ancient despite being politically young. The Council has centuries of authority. Humans have millennia of conflict memory. That inversion is genius. It suggests experience is not measured by empire age, but by survival pressure. That idea resonates deeply with HFY audiences. Finally, Phase 6 ends with the most important emotional transition so far. The Council no longer sees humanity as a small civilization with dangerous weapons. They begin seeing humanity as a species shaped by conflict so intensely that the normal rules of deterrence may no longer apply. And once the audience reaches that realization, humanity stops feeling like a new species entering the galaxy. They start feeling like a historical force the galaxy accidentally woke up. Not combat, not explosions, not destruction. Choice. The story now traps the Council in a scenario where every available option leads to disaster. That structure is one of the strongest possible retention engines in long-form storytelling because audiences become emotionally addicted to the question, what would you do? The most important mechanism here is no clean victory exists anymore. At the beginning of the story, the Council believed they controlled escalation. Now, every escalation path belongs to humanity. That reversal is catastrophic psychologically. And that's exactly why this phase works so well. Another elite storytelling element: the humans weaponize inevitability. This is critical. The seeds are already deployed. The anchors are already charging. The The ship already anticipated destruction. Everything is already in motion. That creates emotional suffocation. The council is no longer deciding whether to engage. They are deciding which disaster they prefer. That distinction is terrifying. Another major viral technique. The story transforms military superiority into helplessness. This is extremely satisfying for HFY audiences. The council still has more ships, more firepower, numerical dominance, political authority. Yet none of it matters, because humanity attacked the framework behind military dominance itself. That's why the story feels intelligent rather than power fantasy driven. Another powerful storytelling mechanism. The humans understand deterrence better than the council does. This becomes the philosophical heart of the phase. The council uses fear-based deterrence. Humans use mutual catastrophe deterrence. That difference changes everything. The council's model works against civilizations that fear destruction more than humiliation. Humans prepared for destruction psychologically long ago. That realization completely breaks the council's strategy. Another elite HFY formula. Prepared suffering. This is extremely important psychologically. The audience realizes humans already accepted the possibility of catastrophic war years before the confrontation began. Meanwhile, the council only now faces that reality emotionally. That timing difference creates dominance. Humans appear emotionally ahead of the conflict. And that is terrifying. Another major viral factor. The humans force the council to think like humans. This is genius. The council prefers stable hierarchy, predictable enforcement, controlled intimidation. Humans force them into uncertainty, risk analysis, asymmetrical thinking, worst-case planning. The council is psychologically dragged into a style of warfare it never evolved to handle. That's incredibly strong HFY storytelling. Another important storytelling weapon. The ticking clock keeps shrinking. This maintains momentum during heavy dialogue scenes. Without the countdown, the story risks becoming philosophical only. But the timer creates urgency. Every conversation now carries pressure underneath it. That balance is crucial for retention. Another elite narrative technique. The audience starts respecting both sides. This is important. Dreven is not foolish. The council is not incompetent. They are trapped inside a doctrine that previously always worked. That nuance makes the conflict believable. Great HFY stories do not require stupid enemies. They require adapted humans. This story understands that perfectly. Another huge viral mechanism. The council's greatest strength becomes its greatest weakness. Its reputation. The council cannot retreat easily because its authority depends on precedent. Humans knew this. That is one of the smartest strategic turns in the entire story. The audience realizes humanity designed the confrontation around institutional psychology, not just military capability. That makes humans feel frighteningly advanced strategically. Another powerful retention tactic. The audience still does not know humanity's full limits. Even this late in the story, the humans continue withholding information. The anchors remain partially unexplained. Other possible systems are implied. The true scale of preparation remains unclear. This is critical. Mystery sustains tension longer than action, especially in long-form sci-fi. Another elite HFY element. The humans remain emotionally calm while discussing apocalypse-level scenarios. This creates mythic intimidation. Voss discusses fleet destruction, space-time distortion, mutual catastrophe, with the emotional tone of someone discussing logistics. That calmness is deeply unsettling, because emotionally stable people discussing catastrophic outcomes feel unstoppable. Another strong storytelling mechanism. The audience realizes humanity prepared morally for escalation. This is subtle but important. The seeds have non-lethal options, disabling options, lethal options. That layered escalation shows humans thought deeply about controlled force. This prevents them from becoming cartoonishly destructive. Instead, they feel dangerous, responsible, disciplined. That balance massively increases audience admiration. Another major viral factor: the conflict becomes symbolic. This is no longer just Earth versus fleet. Now it represents old power versus adaptive power. The audience begins understanding. If humanity wins this confrontation, galactic politics changes forever. That scale expansion increases emotional investment enormously. Another elite storytelling technique: humanity refuses emotional validation. This is brilliant. Voss never says, "We were right. You underestimated us. You deserve this." She simply presents reality. That restraint makes the story feel mature, and maturity increases immersion. Another powerful HFY mechanism: humans weaponize flexibility. The council systems are rigid, institutional, standardized. Humans built contingencies, layered responses, adaptive escalation trees. This difference reflects real-world asymmetric conflict theory, which is why the story feels believable despite advanced sci-fi concepts. Another critical retention factor: the audience starts imagining future wars. This is huge. Viewers now wonder, how would humanity fight offensively? What other doctrines exist? What happens if Earth fully militarizes? What if multiple Reckoning-class ships deploy together? The story creates future imagination, and future imagination drives fandom engagement. Another elite storytelling move: the humans never ask for dominance, only recognition. This matters enormously emotionally. Humanity does not seek conquest. They seek deterrence, credibility. That moral positioning keeps the audience aligned with them despite terrifying capabilities. Another strong viral element: the council slowly realizes the confrontation was educational. This is brilliant psychologically. Humans are not merely threatening the council. They are teaching it something: your old assumptions no longer work. That educational humiliation is devastating for ancient institutions. And audiences love watching stagnant power structures confronted by adaptive thinking. Another powerful HFY factor: violence remains mostly hypothetical. This is extremely smart pacing. The audience's imagination fills the gaps with scenarios worse than most visible battle scenes. Anticipated destruction often feels larger than shown destruction. That's why this phase remains so intense without major combat. Finally, Phase 7 ends with the strongest emotional transition yet. The council no longer debates whether humanity is dangerous. Now they debate whether galactic civilization itself can survive a future where humanity fully enters the balance of power. And once that realization lands, the confrontation stops feeling temporary. It starts feeling historical. Humans defeated a fleet into humans may permanently change how the galaxy thinks. This phase is about ideological shockwaves. The confrontation is no longer limited to ships, weapons, or diplomacy. Now the true battlefield becomes civilizational belief systems. That escalation is what makes the story feel epic instead of merely tactical. The most important mechanism in this phase is the collapse of certainty. For 900 years, the Council operated under stable assumptions. Authority creates obedience. Superior fleets create compliance. Smaller civilizations eventually submit. Escalation can always be controlled. Humanity breaks every one of these assumptions simultaneously. And once assumptions collapse, institutions begin collapsing emotionally too. That is exactly what makes this phase so powerful. Another elite storytelling technique: humanity changes the meaning of weakness. This is critical. Throughout the story, humanity's disadvantages were repeatedly emphasized. But now the audience realizes those weaknesses forced adaptation. Humans became dangerous precisely because they were vulnerable. That inversion is one of the strongest HFY formulas ever created. The audience emotionally connects with it because human history itself often reflects this pattern. Pressure creates innovation. Fear creates preparation. Weakness creates creativity. The story weaponizes that idea beautifully. Another major viral element: the Council realizes its doctrine created humanity's response. This is genius. The Council's intimidation system existed for centuries. Humanity merely studied it and evolved against it. That realization creates poetic irony. The Empire indirectly manufactured the exact kind of enemy capable of resisting Empire. Audiences love that kind of narrative symmetry. Another elite retention mechanism. The story keeps escalating intellectually instead of visually. Most weaker sci-fi escalates by bigger explosions, larger fleets, stronger lasers. This script escalates through understanding. Every revelation changes the audience's interpretation of previous scenes. That creates layered storytelling. And layered storytelling creates rewatches, discussion, theory building, long-term engagement. Another powerful storytelling factor. The Council finally understands humanity's real advantage. Not technology, not aggression, adaptability. This is the philosophical center of HFY. Humanity survives because it changes faster than systems built on stability. That idea is deeply satisfying emotionally because it frames humans as dynamic, evolving, unpredictable, while the Council feels rigid, institutional, slow. That contrast creates natural emotional alignment with humanity. Another elite HFY mechanism. Humans psychologically outgrow their classification. The Tier 4 species label now feels absurd. This is important because bureaucracies depend on categorization. Humanity becomes dangerous partly because it no longer fits the system's categories. And institutions fear anomalies more than enemies. That concept makes the story feel realistic at a political level. Another huge viral factor. The audience realizes humanity's doctrine is scalable. This is terrifying. The reckoning is no longer viewed as a unique incident. Now viewers start imagining entire fleets using seeds, human asymmetrical war doctrine spreading, council formations becoming obsolete, deterrence theory collapsing, galactic military redesigns. The implications become civilization-wide. That scale expansion massively increases emotional impact. Another powerful storytelling mechanism. The humans continue controlling emotional tempo. This remains one of the script's greatest strengths. Even at maximum tension, Voss remains composed. That emotional consistency matters enormously, because consistency under pressure signals absolute preparedness. Audiences instinctively trust calm characters more than emotional ones, especially during crisis. Another elite narrative technique. Humanity introduces strategic ambiguity deliberately. The anchors remain partially unexplained. Other systems are implied. Human capabilities remain uncertain. This ambiguity is intentional, because uncertainty itself is now part of human doctrine. The Council cannot calculate what it does not understand. And strategic unpredictability becomes a weapon. That's sophisticated writing. Another major viral element. The Council begins fearing future contact more than present conflict. This is a huge shift. At the beginning, the fleet feared losing authority today. Now, they fear what humanity becomes tomorrow. That transition transforms the story from battle narrative into historical turning point narrative. And historical turning points feel larger emotionally. Another elite HFY formula. Humans think in ecosystems instead of battles. This is one of the smartest ideas in the script. The Council prepared for engagements. Humans prepared for systems failure. The seeds attack formations. The anchors attack movement. The psychological pressure attacks doctrine. Everything operates together. That systems-level thinking makes humanity feel terrifyingly advanced strategically. Another powerful storytelling factor. The audience starts respecting human paranoia. Earlier, human preparation may have seemed excessive. Now it feels necessary. That reversal is emotionally satisfying because the story validates humanity's caution. This creates audience trust in the protagonists. Another brilliant retention mechanism. The story avoids full catharsis. This is extremely important. The humans still have not destroyed the fleet, won the war, or achieved total victory. That restraint preserves tension. because unresolved dominance is more addictive than completed dominance. The audience keeps needing the final confirmation. Another elite storytelling move. The council becomes reactive instead of proactive. At the beginning, the council controlled events. Now, they respond to humanity constantly. This reversal signals complete strategic initiative transfer. An initiative equals power. The audience subconsciously recognizes humanity now controls the pace of reality itself. Another strong viral element. Humanity forces ancient civilizations to evolve. This is powerful philosophically. The council ruled for centuries partly because nothing fundamentally changed. Humanity changes everything. Not through conquest, through disruption. That distinction matters enormously, because disruption feels more realistic and more dangerous than simple military victory. Another elite HFY factor. The confrontation becomes symbolic of evolution versus stagnation. The council represents order, tradition, hierarchy, stability. Humanity represents adaptation, innovation, chaos, flexibility. The audience naturally gravitates toward adaptive systems because adaptation feels alive. That psychological alignment boosts emotional investment dramatically. Another critical storytelling mechanism. Humanity's unpredictability becomes institutional terror. The council can survive enemies, cannot survive uncertainty, because empires depend on predictability to maintain control. Humans make prediction impossible. That is why they become existentially threatening. Another major viral factor. The audience realizes humanity prepared emotionally for isolation. This is subtle but brilliant. Humans expected misunderstanding, hostility, fear, coercion, and they prepared anyway. That emotional readiness makes them feel incredibly resilient. Another elite narrative technique. The galaxy starts feeling smaller emotionally than humanity. This is powerful. Even though the council controls massive territory, humanity now feels psychologically larger, because ideas scale faster than fleets. And humanity introduced a new idea: asymmetrical deterrence against galactic empires. That concept alone destabilizes the old order. Another strong HFY element. The humans remain morally centered despite overwhelming leverage. This is crucial. They continue offering choices, withdrawal opportunities, de-escalation paths. That prevents humanity from becoming monstrous. Instead, they feel dangerous but justified. And audiences deeply love that archetype. Finally, Phase 8 ends with the most important emotional transition yet. The council no longer fears what humanity can do. They fear what humanity will teach the galaxy to do. And once that realization lands, humanity stops feeling like a civilization entering galactic politics. It starts feeling like the beginning of a new galactic age. The enemy loses emotionally before the battle even ends. This phase is not about destruction. It is about surrender of certainty. That distinction is what separates elite strategic sci-fi from generic action stories. The most important mechanism in this phase is psychological inevitability. The council now understands. Even if they survive this confrontation, the galaxy has already changed. That realization creates emotional defeat. And emotional defeat is often more powerful than military defeat. Another elite storytelling technique. Humanity wins without firing a traditional shot. This is genius. Most viewers expect fleet battles, explosions, massive casualties. Instead, the story creates tension through positioning, information control, strategic pressure, uncertainty, countdowns, doctrine collapse. That restraint makes the narrative feel intelligent. And intelligent narratives generate stronger audience loyalty. Another major viral factor. The council's authority begins collapsing internally. This is critical. At first, the council appeared unified, ancient, certain. Now, officers disagree, doctrine fractures, confidence disappears. Humanity does not merely threaten ships. It destabilizes belief. That scale of victory feels enormous. Another powerful storytelling mechanism. Drevin becomes the emotional center of collapse. This is why his character was built so carefully earlier. The audience trusts his experience. So when Drevin finally understands, humanity anticipated everything. The council lost initiative. Old doctrine no longer works. The audience feels the full emotional impact through him. This is excellent character engineering. Weak stories often neglect enemy perspective. This story uses enemy perspective to amplify human power. That's elite HFY structure. Another strong viral element. The audience realizes humanity never intended conquest. This matters enormously emotionally. Humans are not trying to rule the galaxy. They are forcing the galaxy to respect consequences. That distinction preserves audience alignment with humanity. They feel dangerous but principled. And that combination is extremely compelling. Another elite narrative technique. The humans maintain strategic empathy. Voss repeatedly explains things clearly. She offers understanding. She gives warnings before escalation. This creates moral complexity. Humanity is terrifying but not cruel. That nuance dramatically increases story quality. Another major storytelling weapon. The council finally understands the real meaning of reckoning. This is powerful symbolic payoff. Earlier the ship name felt ominous. Now it feels historically accurate. The reckoning was never just military. It was philosophical. The council's old worldview reached its reckoning. That symbolic closure is deeply satisfying for audiences. Another huge viral factor. The audience starts imagining galactic consequences beyond the story itself. This is essential for memorable sci-fi. Viewers begin wondering, will other species imitate humanity? Will the council collapse politically? Will deterrence doctrine change permanently? Will smaller civilizations rebel? Will humans become feared legends? Those questions extend emotional engagement beyond the narrative itself. And that creates fandom-level retention. Another elite HFY mechanism. Humans expose the weakness hidden inside overwhelming power. This is one of the deepest themes in the story. The council appeared invincible because nobody challenged its assumptions. Humanity challenged the assumptions directly. That idea resonates deeply psychologically because many real systems depend on perceived inevitability. The story taps into that instinct masterfully. Another powerful storytelling factor. The seeds become symbolic. They are no longer just weapons. They represent human thinking, invisible, patient, adaptive, already inside the system before anyone notices. That symbolism is brilliant because it transforms technology into ideology. Another major viral element. The confrontation becomes historical myth in real time. The audience can already imagine future species discussing this moment. That feeling makes the story feel legendary. Legendary scale is critical for highly viral HFY content. Another elite storytelling move. The council loses narrative control. At the beginning, the council defined classifications, borders, authority, acceptable behavior. Now humanity defines escalation, consequences, uncertainty, future strategy. This transfer of narrative authority is psychologically massive, and audiences instinctively recognize it. Another powerful retention mechanism. The humans still withhold their full capability ceiling. This remains crucial. Even this late, the audience still does not know all human doctrines, full military scale, additional hidden systems, how many reckoning-class ships exist. That uncertainty preserves mythic scale, because fully explained power always feels smaller. Another elite HFY factor. Humanity weaponized survival itself. This is one of the strongest philosophical themes in the script. Everything terrible in human history, wars, conflict, instability, adaptation, fear, became training. That emotional transformation is incredibly satisfying because human flaws become evolutionary advantages. Another major storytelling strength. The story never abandons emotional realism. Even while discussing civilization-scale threats, characters still feel controlled, intelligent, human. That grounded emotional tone prevents the story from becoming cartoonish. And grounded tone increases immersion enormously. Another viral element. The audience realizes humanity's greatest weapon is preparation under uncertainty. This is critical. The council prepared for known threats. Humans prepared for unknown threats. That mindset difference is what truly separates them. And it makes humanity feel infinitely adaptable. Another elite narrative technique. Victory becomes redefinition instead of destruction. This is brilliant. Humanity does not need to destroy the fleet to win. It only needs to permanently alter how the council thinks. That type of victory feels more sophisticated and more lasting. Another powerful HFY mechanism. The council starts fearing future humans more than present humans. This is huge psychologically. The current confrontation becomes proof of concept. If humanity can do this now, what happens later? That future fear creates mythic weight. Another strong storytelling factor. The audience experiences intellectual satisfaction instead of pure spectacle. This is why the script feels memorable. The pleasure comes from realization, understanding, strategic inversion, doctrine collapse, not simply explosions. And intellectual satisfaction often creates stronger long-term engagement than visual spectacle alone. Another elite viral mechanism. The humans remain emotionally disciplined until the end. This consistency matters enormously. No arrogance, no triumphal screaming, no revenge monologues, only clarity. That emotional discipline makes humanity feel terrifyingly mature. And mature power is always scarier than emotional power. Finally, Phase 9 ends with the most important emotional transition in the entire story. The council no longer fears losing a confrontation. It fears entering a future where humanity exists as an equal strategic force. And once that realization fully lands, the balance of power in the galaxy is already psychologically broken, whether a single shot is fired or not. The biggest mistake weak HFY stories make is over-explaining the ending. This story avoids that brilliantly. Instead of ending with, humans destroyed the fleet, it ends with, humanity changed the meaning of power. That difference is exactly why the story feels unforgettable. The core mechanism of Phase 10 is lingering existential tension. The audience must leave the story thinking, this confrontation was only the beginning. That feeling creates rewatches, comments, theories, emotional aftershock, audience discussion, franchise potential, and those are the true engines of virality. Another elite storytelling technique. The climax is psychological, not explosive. This is crucial. The audience does not need planet destruction, thousands of deaths, or giant CGI battles. Because the real climax already happened, the council realized it no longer understood the galaxy. That realization is emotionally larger than physical destruction. And emotionally large endings are what audiences remember. Another powerful viral factor. The story preserves mystery until the final moment. Even at the end, the anchors are not fully explained. Humanity's total capabilities remain unknown. Future doctrines are implied. Larger strategic systems may exist. Earth's true preparedness remains hidden. This restraint is genius, because mystery creates scale. The less fully explained humanity becomes, the larger humanity feels. That's why the ending feels mythic. Another elite HFY mechanism. The audience mentally continues the story after it ends. This is extremely important. Great endings create future imagination. The audience immediately starts wondering, what happens to the council? Does the fleet retreat? Will other species ally with humans? Does the galaxy begin copying human doctrine? How many more ships like the Reckoning exist? What other systems has Earth hidden? Was this humanity's weakest deterrence system? Those unanswered questions extend emotional engagement far beyond the final scene. That's elite retention design. Another major storytelling strength. Humanity never becomes villainous. This matters enormously. Despite overwhelming leverage, humans continue offering warnings, exits, de-escalation, explanations, that keeps the audience emotionally aligned with them. Humanity feels dangerous but justified, and that archetype performs incredibly well in HFY. Another brilliant narrative technique. The Council survives emotionally damaged. This is key. If the fleet simply exploded, the story would become spectacle. Instead, the Council must live with humiliation, fear, uncertainty, adaptation pressure. That creates stronger long-term narrative weight, because surviving transformation is often more painful than destruction. Another powerful viral element. The audience realizes humanity's true victory was conceptual. This is the heart of the ending. Humanity did not merely protect Earth. It forced the galaxy to understand. Small civilizations can become existential threats if underestimated. That realization permanently destabilizes galactic hierarchy. And the audience understands. Nothing will ever feel safe again. That is an elite ending emotion. Another major HFY formula. Humanity becomes a cautionary tale. The story subtly implies future species will study this incident, not as a battle, but as a warning. That mythic framing gives the story enormous scale emotionally. The confrontation stops feeling like one event, starts feeling like the beginning of historical legend. Another elite storytelling mechanism. The audience fears what humanity might become if truly threatened. This is critical. The reckoning was still restrained. That realization is terrifying. If one diplomatic vessel can destabilize the Council fleet psychologically, what happens during actual war? The story wisely never answers, because unanswered fear is stronger than explained fear. Another powerful retention factor. The story ends with possibility instead of certainty. This is one of the most important lessons in viral storytelling. Closed endings reduce engagement. Open endings increase it. The audience leaves emotionally activated because the future remains unstable. That instability creates discussion. Discussion creates virality. Another elite narrative move. Humanity earns respect rather than domination. This matters psychologically. The story avoids humans rule the galaxy now. Instead, humanity forces recognition. That is far more satisfying because respect feels earned, while domination often feels childish. The audience emotionally responds more strongly to competence and sovereignty than simplistic conquest. Another brilliant HFY technique. The final fear belongs to the future, not the present. At the beginning, the Council feared territorial expansion. At the end, it fears human evolution. That escalation is massive, because territorial threats are manageable. Civilizational transformation is not. Another strong storytelling factor. The galaxy itself becomes emotionally uncertain. This is important. The old galactic order depended on predictability. Humanity introduces adaptive unpredictability. And once unpredictability enters a stable empire, every future interaction changes. The audience understands. The Council cannot unknow what it learned. That permanence gives the ending tremendous weight. Another elite viral mechanism. The story rewards attentive viewers one final time. Everything now feels connected. The gift basket, the coffee, the smiles, the hidden corridors, the warm lighting, the military diplomat, the comm crew, the charge cycles, the ship name. All of it was foreshadowing. That creates immense rewatch value. Audiences love stories where the truth was always visible. Another major HFY strength. The ending preserves human identity. Humanity never becomes perfect, godlike, or emotionless. Instead, humans remain adaptive, prepared, creative, dangerous, deeply shaped by history. That grounded humanity makes the story emotionally believable. Another powerful storytelling element. The audience realizes humanity's greatest weapon was understanding fear, not causing fear, understanding it. Humans knew how empires intimidate, how institutions think, how escalation works, how psychology controls conflict. That emotional intelligence became strategic superiority. and that idea is deeply compelling. Another elite narrative choice. The story ends on emotional unease instead of celebration. This is extremely sophisticated. No cheering. No triumphant speech. No heroic music moment. Only realization. The realization that the galaxy encountered a civilization fundamentally different from anything it previously understood. That quiet ending tone makes the story feel mature and unforgettable. Finally, the viral formula concludes with the strongest possible emotional aftershock. The audience no longer wonders whether humanity can survive in the galaxy. Now they wonder whether the galaxy can survive humanity. And that single emotional reversal is what makes the entire story feel legendary.